Welcome to my channel. Old Coins Quarter Dollar Today videos is one you won't miss. We're diving into the world of coins, so let's get it started. The Canadian 5-cent coin of 1979, bearing the obverse inscription Elizabeth II D times G times Regina, is an intriguing piece of modern numismatic history that reflects both Canada's long-standing association with the British monarchy and the evolution of Canadian coinage in the late 20th century. On the obverse side, the coin features a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, who had been Canada's reigning monarch since her coronation in 1952. By 1979, the effigy used on Canadian coins was the second official portrait of the Queen, designed by Arnold Machin, a British sculptor whose refined and elegant depiction of the young Queen in her mid-30s was employed on Canadian coinage beginning in 1965. This effigy shows Elizabeth II facing right, wearing a tiara, the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a symbol of both regal dignity and youthful grace. Surrounding her likeness are the Latin words Elizabeth II D times G times Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, a traditional royal title that underscores the constitutional and ceremonial connection between Canada and the Crown. The obverse side is deeply reflective of the era when Canada, while fully sovereign, continued to emphasize its Commonwealth heritage, with the Queen's profile being a symbol of continuity and stability. The reverse of the 1979 Canadian nickel is equally rich in symbolism and design. Since 1937, Canada's 5-cent piece had featured the image of a beaver on a rock, created by artist and sculptor G. Kruger Gray. This design, which remained unchanged well into the modern era, had become one of the most iconic and recognizable motifs in Canadian numismatics. The beaver is not only a national symbol of Canada, recognized officially in 1975 as the country's national animal, but it also recalls a fur trade, which was a foundational element of Canada's early economy and colonial history. The beaver's industrious nature, building dams and lodges with patience and perseverance, came to represent qualities admired in Canadian society: hard work, resilience, and resourcefulness. On the reverse, the beaver is shown in great detail sitting atop a rock, surrounded by calm water, which itself gives the coin a sense of quiet realism. Above the image appears the denomination 5 cents, and below it, Canada 1979, with a small maple leaf on each side of the word cents, further reinforcing Canada's national identity. At the bottom rim, one finds the initial kilogram, standing for Kruger Gray, the designer. This unchanged reverse design ensured continuity across decades, making the coin instantly familiar to generations of Canadians. From a physical and technical perspective, the 1979 Canadian nickel was struck in a composition that reflected the transitional period of Canadian coinage. At this time, the 5-cent coin was composed primarily of nickel metal 99.9% nickel, giving it both durability and a silvery white appearance. The coin has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, a thickness of about 1.76 millimeters, and a weight of 4.54 grams. Its edge is smooth, plain, rather than reeded, distinguishing it from larger denominations like the dime and quarter. The use of nickel gave the coin a magnetic property, which is notable for collectors, as Canadian nickel from this period can be separated from earlier or later issues, some of which use copper-nickel or steel compositions. The coin's durability was one reason for its long circulation life, with many examples of 1979 nickel still being found in pocket change decades later. The year 1979 in Canada was not especially marked by commemorative coin issues for the 5-cent denomination, meaning that the circulating 5-cent piece remained a standard design without special editions. However, this period in Canadian numismatic history was important because it was leading toward changes in the 1980s, when the Mint began to explore cost-saving measures in different alloys in response to rising metal prices. The 1979 issue thus represents one of the later examples of pure nickel 5-cent coins, before widespread compositional adjustments came into place in later decades. For collectors, the 1979 nickel is not considered rare in general circulation, as millions were minted by the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa. Exact minted figures are in the hundreds of millions, which ensured a wide distribution across the country. However, within numismatic circles, certain varieties, errors, or condition-related factors can make specific examples more desirable. Coins struck with full sharp detail, brilliant uncirculated luster, or proof-like qualities especially those preserved in mint sets, hold a higher premium than worn circulation strikes. In terms of historical significance, the 1979 Canadian nickel also serves as a reflection of Canadian culture during the late 1970s. Canada was in the midst of defining itself both economically and socially, with ongoing debates about national identity, bilingualism, and constitutional reform. The use of enduring symbols like the beaver and maple leaf on its coinage tied together Canada's colonial past, its natural resources, and its emerging sense of unity. The presence of Elizabeth II's portrait linked Canada to its monarchy, a reminder of both tradition and continuity at a time of change. Furthermore, the nickel's durability meant that coins from this year continued to circulate well into the 21st century, serving as a small but tangible reminder of the late 1970s for everyday Canadians. For collectors today, a 1979 Canadian 5-cent piece in circulated condition generally holds only its face value of 5 cents due to its large mintage. However, uncirculated or mint state coins, especially those graded at higher levels, MS65 and above, can be worth significantly more, with prices ranging from a few dollars to over $20 depending on rarity of condition and demand. Proof-like sets and specially struck examples from the Royal Canadian Mint also attract collector interest. Errors such as misstrikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, or double dies can make some 1979 nickels unique and much more valuable. Numismatists often study such varieties closely, as they provide insights into the minting process and production quirks of the era. In summary, the 1979 Canadian Elizabeth II 5-cent coin is a modest yet richly symbolic piece of Canadian currency. Its obverse honors a monarchy with Arnold Machin's elegant portrait of Queen, while its reverse continues a long tradition of Kruger Gray's iconic beaver design, a proud emblem of Canada's industrious spirit. Struck in pure nickel, with a smooth edge and a weight of 4.54 grams, it embodies both practicality and heritage. Though common in circulation, its historical context, design continuity, and potential for collectible variations give it enduring significance in Canadian numismatics. It represents not only a functional unit of currency, but also a cultural artifact that bridges Canada's past and present, tying together themes of sovereignty, industry, and national pride. The Canadian 5-cent coin of 2006, bearing the obverse inscription Elizabeth II D times G times Regina, is a fascinating numismatic piece that illustrates both tradition and change within Canadian coinage during the early 21st century. By 2006, Canada's nickel had already undergone decades of subtle and significant transformations in portraiture, composition, and symbolism, while continuing to retain its familiar and iconic imagery. The obverse of the coin features the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, Canada's constitutional monarch, designed by the Canadian artist Susanna Blunt. This portrait, first introduced in 2003, was a striking departure from previous regal depictions. Unlike earlier effigies that showed the Queen wearing a crown or tiara, Blunt's portrayal is a more modern and approachable likeness of Elizabeth II, facing right and depicted without royal adornment. This uncrowned portrait symbolizes a more personal and relatable image of the Queen, reflective of her role as a contemporary monarch who had, by this time, reigned for over 50 years. Surrounding her profile are the words Elizabeth II D times G times Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, a phrase that emphasizes a queen's enduring position as sovereign. This obverse is significant in Canadian numismatic history because it marked the first Canadian portrait of Elizabeth II designed by a Canadian artist, representing a shift towards national identity and independence in design choices. Turning to the reverse, the 2006 Canadian nickel continued the use of the long-established design of the beaver on a rock, an emblematic image that had been central to Canadian 5-cent coinage since 1937. Created by British sculptor G. Kruger Gray, this design had become inseparable from the denomination, firmly embedding the beaver into Canadian coin symbolism. The beaver, known for its industrious and constructive habits, is also one of the oldest symbols associated with Canada, tied historically to the fur trade, which was vital to the economic development of New France and later British North America. On the coin, the beaver is depicted with realistic detail, crouching atop a rock with water flowing below. Above the beaver is a denomination 5 cents, while beneath it appear the country's name Canada and the year 2006. Flanking the word cent are two small maple leaves, another enduring emblem of Canadian national identity. The initials kilogram, for Kruger Gray, appear at the bottom of the design, acknowledging the artist's contribution. Despite being nearly 7 decades old by 2006, this reverse design had lost none of its relevance, continuing to embody themes of resilience, industry, and natural heritage that remain central to Canadian culture. From a technical perspective, the 2006 Canadian 5-cent coin is notable because of its composition and minting technology, which reflect both cost-saving measures and modern innovations at the Royal Canadian Mint. By this time, the coin was no longer struck in pure nickel, as had been the case for many decades up to 1981. Rising nickel prices had pushed the mint to adopt alternative compositions. The 2006 nickel was made of 94.5% steel, 3.5% copper, and 2% nickel plating, giving the coin a magnetic property and a silvery appearance while significantly reducing production costs. This plated steel technology had been used since 2000, following trials and refinements in the 1990s. The coin's weight remained 3.95 grams, lighter than earlier solid nickel issues, while its diameter was 21.2 millimeters and its thickness approximately 1.76 millimeters. The edge was smooth plane, a traditional feature of the denomination. The move toward plated steel represented a broader trend in global minting, as many countries sought to reduce expenses and secure supply chains by moving away from pure or expensive metals. The mintage of the 2006 5-cent coin was substantial, with hundreds of millions produced for circulation, ensuring that the coin remained a common sight in Canadian wallets and cash registers. However, collectors often take interest in the differences between coins struck at the Winnipeg Mint, for circulation, and those produced at the Ottawa facility for proof-like, and collector sets. Circulating strikes tend to have a satin-like or matte finish, while coins from special sets often exhibit brilliant mirror-like fields and sharper detail. For numismatists, these distinctions in strike quality and finish provide opportunities to explore the diverse product of the mint in that year. The year 2006 is particularly important in Canadian numismatic history because it marked the centennial of the Royal Canadian Mint, which was founded in 1908. To commemorate this occasion, the Mint issued a range of special collector coins in gold, silver, and other denominations, though the standard 5-cent coin did not receive a commemorative redesign that year. Nevertheless, its continued circulation amidst a year of celebrations underscored the enduring role of the nickel as an everyday denomination, connecting ordinary Canadians to the Mint's century of coin production. From a cultural and symbolic perspective, the 2006 Canadian nickel represents a balance between continuity and change. The reverse maintained Kruger Gray's timeless beaver design, unchanged for nearly 70 years, while the obverse introduced a modern, uncrowned Susanna Blunt portrait, marking an evolution in how Canadians saw their monarch. The coin's steel composition reflected global economic realities and the Mint's technological innovation, showing how even a humble 5-cent piece could embody themes of progress and adaptation. In circulation, the 2006 nickel carried only its face value, but in numismatic terms, uncirculated or high-grade examples are collected for their condition, and coins from proof or specimen sets are valued higher due to their superior craftsmanship and limited mintages. Error coins from 2006, such as those struck off-center, with die cracks, or with doubling, can be rare and valuable, making them highly sought after by error specialists. Ultimately, the Elizabeth II 5-cent coin of Canada from 2006 is both ordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary in that it circulated widely, used daily by millions for small purchases, and extraordinary in that it encapsulates over a century of minting tradition, the image of Canada's sovereign, and the enduring national symbols of the beaver and maple leaf. Its design bridges Canada's colonial heritage and independent artistry. Its composition reflects technological adaptation, and its imagery continues to reinforce values of industry, unity, and national pride. For collectors and historians alike, the 2006 nickel serves as a modest yet meaningful piece of Canadian identity in coin form, embodying the legacy of the Royal Canadian Mint and the reign of Elizabeth II during a period of modern transformation. The Canadian 5-cent coin of 2008, inscribed with Elizabeth II D times G times Regina on its obverse, is a small but fascinating example of how Canada's coinage balances tradition with modern minting innovations. By 2008, The nickel had been in circulation for more than 140 years as part of Canada's decimal currency system, and while its face value remained modest, its design, composition, and symbolism made it one of the most culturally significant coins in Canadian numismatics. The obverse of the 2008 5-cent coin features the official effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, Canada's head of state and reigning monarch since 1952. This portrait is the fourth Canadian effigy of Elizabeth II and was designed by Canadian artist Susanna Blunt. First introduced in 2003, this effigy marked a turning point in the Queen's portrayal on Canadian coinage. Unlike her previous effigies, which depicted her wearing a crown or tiara, the Blunt portrait presents a mature, uncrowned likeness of the Queen, facing right, with a dignified yet approachable appearance. The choice to depict her without regalia reflected a modern vision of the monarchy, less distant and more relatable, emphasizing the Queen as a person rather than only as a symbol of royal authority. Surrounding the portrait are the words Elizabeth II D times G times Regina, which is Latin for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This phrase underscores the constitutional and ceremonial foundation of the monarchy in Canada, maintaining continuity with centuries-old traditions of royal titles on coinage. On the reverse side, the 2008 nickel carried the classic beaver design that had adorned the denomination since 1937. This design was created by British artist G. E. Kruger-Gray, and it remains one of the most iconic images in Canadian coinage. The beaver has long been associated with Canada's history, economy, and identity. As the national animal of Canada, officially designated in 1975, the beaver symbolizes industriousness, perseverance, and the building of communities, values that resonate with Canadian culture and heritage. Historically, the beaver also ties directly to the fur trade, which was a driving economic force in Canada's early colonial development. On the coin, the beaver is depicted in a lifelike manner, crouched on a rock in the middle of water, its powerful tail visible behind it, symbolizing its natural industriousness. Above the beaver appears the denomination 5 cents, while the country name Canada and the year 2008 are inscribed below. 2 maple leaves, another quintessential Canadian emblem, flank the denomination at the top. At the bottom rim, the initials kilogram acknowledge Kruger-Gray's artistry. This reverse design, nearly unchanged for over 7 decades by 2008, illustrates how Canada has preserved continuity in its national symbols, making the 5-cent coin instantly recognizable across generations. From a physical and technical perspective, the 2008 Canadian nickel demonstrates the modern production methods of the Royal Canadian Mint. By 2008, the coin was no longer composed of solid nickel, as it had been in earlier decades. Instead, it was struck in a multiply-plated steel composition, consisting of steel as a core, 94.5%, copper plating, 3.5%, and a final outer layer of nickel plating, 2%. This composition gave the coin both durability and a bright, silvery appearance, while also reducing production costs significantly compared to pure nickel coins. The use of plated steel had become standard by this time, following the Mint's adoption of this technology in 2000, and it reflected broader global trends in coinage where rising metal prices forced mints to seek cost-efficient alternatives. The coin has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, a thickness of about 1.76 millimeters, and a weight of 3.95 grams, making it slightly lighter than the earliest solid nickel issues. Its plain, smooth edge is characteristic of the denomination and serves as a tactile distinction from other coins such as a dime or quarter. One of the technical advantages of the plated steel composition was the coin's magnetic properties, which made it compatible with modern vending and coin-operated machines, as well as easier for the Mint to handle in automated systems. The mintage of the 2008 Canadian 5-cent coin was substantial, as the nickel continued to serve as an essential unit of Canada's circulating coinage. Millions were struck at the Mint's facilities, primarily the Winnipeg Mint, which produces all Canadian circulation coins. Additional proof-like, and specimen strikes were produced at the Ottawa facility for collectors, often distinguished by their superior strike quality, polished dies, and distinctive finishes. For example, proof coins display a mirror-like background with frosted details, while specimen coins often feature a satin finish. These variations cater to the numismatic market, ensuring that even ordinary denominations like the 5-cent coin can appeal to collectors who value craftsmanship and rarity. Culturally, the 2008 nickel represents a continuation of Canada's long-standing practice of embedding national symbols into its coinage. The beaver and maple leaf remained at the center of the design, reinforcing Canada's identity both domestically and abroad. Meanwhile, the obverse portrait by Susanna Blunt emphasized Canada's growing numismatic independence, as it was the first effigy of Elizabeth II on Canadian coins designed by a Canadian. This marked an important milestone in the mint's history, showcasing how Canada was asserting its own artistic identity while still honoring its ties to the monarchy. In terms of historical context, the year 2008 was also notable because it marked the 100th anniversary of the first Canadian gold coinage, 1908 to 2008, an occasion the mint celebrated with various collector issues. While the standard 5-cent coin was not given a special commemorative design, its circulation during this year makes it part of the broader numismatic story of 2008 as a celebratory year for Canadian coinage. From a collector's standpoint, the 2008 Canadian nickel is widely available in circulation, and in circulated condition, it generally holds only its face value. However, coins preserved in uncirculated, mint state, condition or included in proof-like and proof sets can command higher values, ranging from a few dollars to more depending on condition, rarity, and demand. Special attention is also given by collectors to error coins from this year, such as off-center strikes, die clashes, or double dies, which are rare but can be significantly more valuable than ordinary examples. Furthermore, high-grade certified examples, graded MS65 or higher, are prized by serious collectors who seek perfection in strike quality and preservation. In summary, the Elizabeth II Canadian 5-cent coin of 2008 is both a practical piece of currency and a cultural artifact that reflects Canada's heritage and evolving identity. Its obverse features Susanna Blunt's modern, uncrowned portrait of the Queen, representing contemporary vision of the monarchy, while its reverse preserves Kruger Gray's timeless beaver design, symbolizing Canada's industrious spirit and natural heritage. Struck in multiply-plated steel with a weight of 3.95 grams and a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, it embodies a Royal Canadian Mint's innovation in balancing tradition with economic realities. Though common in circulation, it carries deeper significance in its design, composition, and symbolism, making it an enduring piece of Canadian numismatic history.